Welcome, Annmarie, and good to see you today. And I'm just excited to have you, and we're just going to dive in and do a little energy clearing. I'm just trying to see which way I have to move to be in the center of the screen. Okay, there we go. And we're just going to do a little energy work with Annmarie to help her clear and balance her energy for the day and feel really good going out into her life. So glad that you offered to volunteer for this portion of the live broadcast. And
that's it. Thank you.
And full disclosure, Annmarie has been a client of mine in the past, so she's very familiar with this work and what it is. And so we're just going to hop in and do this a little bit together. So, Annmarie, can you tell me what is sort of one thing that might be up for you to right now that you want to shift or change, that you'd like to be different?
So I had an experience yesterday that got me a little tangled, and it was about showing up with full respect for all my boundaries, about not wanting to really connect with other people, but also understanding that I do on some level want to connect with people and have a magnetism. So then there's a frustration, a misalignment within myself and how I show up and how I react to people connecting with me. And I know, because of the work that we've done in the past, this isn't really like my boundary was violated or that I'm just needing to be alone. I know that it's actually stemming from a belief that I'm not enough.
Okay. So really you already did some of the work to get to this thing. So you're having this tension between engaging with yourself and showing up for other people. And sounds like some of the not wanting to show up for other people is this feeling of not being enough. Am I getting that right?
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. And also, I don't give enough to myself. I'm having this conversation with this man and telling him how I just need to make sure, because he's asking me about connecting with community.
Excuse me. I did not turn off my phone. Okay.
And I hear myself telling him, well, as long as I've had 2 hours to myself alone in the morning, then yes, I love connecting with a small community like this. And as I'm saying it, I'm going, yeah, I didn't do that for myself today. So not being enough for myself or for other people.
Okay. So there's a little bit of a balance thing here of, so that's an interesting point of view. I need 2 hours in the morning in order to be able to connect with anybody else. So is that true? It feels true, right?
It feels true.
Okay.
It definitely true, and I've heard myself say it a lot, so I'm trying to prove that it's true.
Yeah. So, okay, we're going to dive in and look at the energy on this, and see what's going on. So there's a clearing process that I teach in my courses and my work, just to start to get you back aligned to being yourself in the here and now, being in your own energy, because it is so easy for all of us, especially if you're at all sensitive or empathic like both of us are, to take on other people's energy and to get all mixed up. And so that one of the first steps that I do is you want to get yourself back to being in a good energetic place before you start looking at what you think your issues are, because chances are if you just do the energy balancing, some of the issues you thought you had go away. So, and in my work, I use something called kinesiology, which is a way to use your muscles to gain information about your body, about your energy. And Annmarie is very familiar with this. So the first question is to identify whether you're being yourself in the here and now. So I'm going to have Annmarie say, I'm Annmarie here and now. And I'm going to muscle test for her and see what it tests, if it's weak or strong. So go ahead and say that for me.
I'm Annmarie here and now.
No. Okay, that was my hunch. So that's first step. I'm Annmarie here now. No. Are you Annmarie?
I am Annmarie.
No. Okay. So there's a place where she's not being connected to herself. She's being connected to someone else or something else. So is this a connection with someone else, or is it with some other identity?
Probably some other identity.
Okay, so we're gonna use a muscle testing again and say this is with and she can also do this in my courses. I teach my clients how to do it, so it's not like just me me testing for them. So so the question is, okay, this is related to another person. No, this is another identity. So identities are false senses of self that we take on about who we are and how we have to show up in the world. And then it limits us because we think we have to be that way. So a very common example of that would be being the victim. So when you're the victim, anything that shows up when you're really identified with being the victim, anything that shows up in your life that's going to take you out of being the victim will feel on some level threatening to your sense of identity and your sense of self. So we're going to try to find what is the identity that Annmarie is connected to that's maybe creating this tension about not feeling enough or not wanting to connect with other people. So is the identity I am not enough? Is that the identity?
I'm not enough.
I'm not getting that that's the one. Part of what the kinesiology is doing is helping connect with your subconscious. What's going on below the surface of your being is kind of the concept of it, is helping you get to sort of those deeper layers that you're not immediately aware of. So that's part of what we're doing. So I am the victim. Okay, let's just try that one out.
I am the victim.
Okay, so that's coming up strong. So can you see a place where you're feeling attached to or connected with being the victim in your life?
Yes. And it's so tangled up because you never want to upset anybody else's belief systems by honoring your own truth. So I'll just preface this by saying this really isn't about anybody else's belief systems. But right now, like the energy of God the Father and I aren't really getting along so well.
Okay, interesting way to put it. Okay. So are you pissed off at life or the universe or something to that extent?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I feel a lot of energy on that actually. Okay. Is there some grief there?
There's definitely some grief. It's being triggered by the energy of grief. But there's also like a grieving of my relationship to my foundation of spirituality. You know, I was brought up very, very religious, choir girl in a Catholic church, and I am so grateful for all of that. But, you know, it's as much as I'm grieving my own losses and processing my own feelings, I'm also grieving that acceptance or connection that I had with my spiritual roots, my foundation. It would be very much. Okay. So I feel victimized if I'm with the whole God story. And if I explore other aspects of spirituality, I feel more empowered. But I'd still like to feel and resolve whatever that grief and misalignment is.
Okay, so let's just see which way is the best way to go. So when you look at the grief, we need to look at the victim story. So tell me a little bit more about how you're feeling like you're the victim in this.
Well, I mean, I was given a child who had a 10% chance of surviving. And I remember reaching out to you and asking about miracles and how to become more aligned with the acceptance that miracles were possible. Because I, in that moment, realized I didn't believe that miracles could happen. So I was given this experience with this child for 2.5 years, which seemed to be just long enough to really believe in miracles. And like accept them to the point that I had an expectation that I was influencing the situation in the way that I chose. And as much as we influence our life experience and we have a choice how to handle everything that comes up, we don't call the shots, because that's not how we would learn or grow. So I'm focusing on being in the blessings and the lessons here, but I'm still a little pissed off.
For the loss, for the, And so what's the story under that this shouldn't be happening, that I made a mistake, that I was wrong? Like, what is that?
I tried to make it those stories, but that's not like the foundation of it.
Right. Okay. So we want to get to the root of what this is, because that's where the true healing, transformation, energetic shifts comes from, is what it's at the root. Okay. So I'm just going to ask you some questions. Like, does this go back to something like pretty old?
Probably.
Okay. So there's something from the past. If you had to trace it back, is there anything that comes up for you from the past where there's maybe a similar feeling or a resonance or something that feels related? Is it from this lifetime?
Is it from this lifetime? I don't know.
My sense is no.
Okay.
Does that feel at all true for you?
I mean, I never sense the past lifetime stuff as easily. So,
okay. So one of the things that comes, just for our listeners, one of the things that sometimes shows up, and this showed up for me when my dad died, is that if you're having inexplicable feelings or experiences that don't quite match this reality, and I'm not saying that you do, but sometimes that's true. So I had a huge amount of guilt and shame when my dad died, and I couldn't understand where it was coming from and what it was about until I looked at the experience of a past lifetime. And when I really cleared that past life with him and all of the, and I know that not everybody believes in reincarnation, but working with the imagery that shows up, the content that shows up can be really powerful and transformative. And I say, like, I don't know if I really had that lifetime with my dad, but I know that the work that I did on it dynamically shifted my experience of grief, and the grief and shame, or the shame and guilt that I felt, was gone after I did that. So I'm going to invite us to look at, is there something from another lifetime that is contributing? Of course, there's a huge amount of stuff that's happening from this lifetime, but could there be something from another lifetime that's contributing to this incredible sense of grief, whatever those feelings are? So we're going to just do a little work on that, if you're willing. Are you willing to go there?
I'm willing.
Okay, so there is another lifetime to look at. And there's a best way to get there, which is to just close your eyes and see what comes up. So just close your eyes, and you're going to bring your focus down into the center of your being, down into your solar plexus. And just see what you notice. So if there's any visions that show up, any feelings or sensations, what's showing up for you?
I only have a sense that it could be, Cordelia and I sharing a previous lifetime together, but not the details of what our exchange was.
Okay, so there was a relationship from another lifetime. Yeah, okay. So you have any sense of what that lifetime was?
I think we might need to muscle test on it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask you some questions and see what shows up, and then we'll also do some muscle testing. So do you have a sense of any time period or time frame in history, like any visions of what that was?
1800s pulls up, but
Okay, cool. And can you ask her to come into your space?
I'm still the adult figure.
Okay. And is she present and all there? Okay. And do you get a sense of who she is, or?
I think she was my daughter then too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
That's all I know.
Okay, so she was your daughter in another lifetime. And so, so when we look at sometimes these kinds of experiences from human level of understanding and from just what we see in this life, in this plane of existence, can be hugely devastating, right? Can be like, why does this happen? God, why does this happen to me? Like, why was I given something that was then taken away from me? What is this all about? And yeah, it can be heartbreaking. One of the ways that we heal and we make sense is to look at a broader perspective, expand our sense out about what this really is. And there's a few ways to do that. One is to just really tap into the energy of it and ask some questions. And part of what I do in my work is what is lighter for you and what creates spaciousness for you and shifts for you is accessing a level of truth. Also, when tears come up, that's also often what my teacher called tears of the soul, right? You touch something that's so tender and so true for you that it moves you to tears. And so clearly there's this connection that you have with this other being that is so profound that now she's gone from your life in physical form. And so we want to look at what is this relationship? What is the pattern of this relationship that maybe has spanned lifetimes? And what are some of the gifts or the lessons? And how can we shift how you hold this and how you look at it so that it can become easier for you and that you can have more space to not just be drowned by your grief, but to move forward in your life. Because grief can be that. Grief can be so confusing, so overwhelming, all of those kinds of things.
It's interesting too how I tried to avoid going there. You know, like my original angle was completely different. But
yeah, right. So we started out talking about like, I can't connect with people and I feel like I'm not enough. And now here we are at like, I lost my child and I'm in incredible grief. And what do I do with it? And being an empath, I feel it like I'm like tearing up here because I feel the energy on that. And so we're following the energy and looking at the energy and how to shift and change it. Okay, so do you have a sense of the energy? What was the energy present in that other lifetime? Like, was there a loss and a grief there too, or was it something different?
I don't know. All I could tell was that I was the adult and she probably was my daughter or a child who I cared for.
Mm-hmm.
She was all dressed up with a bonnet and
okay.
She was in a more able body. You know?
Okay. So I'm just going to ask some questions using muscle testing. So there's some sort of event that we need to look at from this past lifetime. No. There's some sort of belief or conclusion that occurred in this other lifetime. Okay. So some sort of, oftentimes when we look at the past, so we look at the past only to find what is relevant to the present that we can shift or change to shift your present experience. We're not looking for a whole bunch of story, anything like that, because it's actually not relevant. We're only looking for what's going to help. So oftentimes we have some sort of conclusion or decision from another lifetime that we carry over into this one. And since there's not an event, I'm not exactly sure what that is, but let's see if we can access. So there is a decision or a conclusion that was made in another lifetime about being her mom. Nope. About your relationship with her in some way. Okay. Do you have any sense on that?
I don't. The only word that comes up is control. Because in this lifetime, I was given the story by the doctors that I would control her life, every aspect of her life for the entirety of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that information and used it for my benefit, but then that's definitely not how her death happened. And
mm-hmm.
it's almost as if I had been preparing myself to have to be the one who decided when her quality of life was no longer appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm eternally grateful that I didn't have to make that choice, because I think that might have been harder. But I also feel like I've had that taken from me, even though I know I didn't want it.
Okay, so
It brought us back to this lifetime, but
yeah, it goes back to this lifetime. So there's a connection between that lifetime and this one. So I'm just gonna see what comes up as we ask.
Like those are the ones, control and choices.
Did you lose her prematurely in another lifetime too? What feels true for you?
You know, there's people who have actually supposed that she was miscarried in my body multiple times in this lifetime, because I did have quite a few miscarriages as well. So it's like we're trying so hard to get back together.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just not for this lifetime, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So that's part of the journey, is that attempt to reconnect. Okay. So there's anything else we need from the past life? There's still something else from the past life that we're trying to see how it's connected and what is relevant. And just seeing if I get any insight or was it just a really lovely life that you had with her?
That's the impression I got, you know?
The impression I get too is that you just had a really sweet, lovely life with this beautiful daughter. It doesn't, like, as I'm tapping into like what that is and what the energy is, I don't get a sense that there was anything truly devastating about it or hard about it or okay, so is that past life a reminder of like your relationship with her and your connection with her? Yeah, and like what you have. And I don't get that there's really much more to it than that, that it's a way to show you that that is still real and that experience is real. And there's anything else there? No. So that's all that we really need from that past life, is to remember and remembering of that joy and that beauty and that. So now we need to bring that into this present life, which was a very different life and a very different experience. So we're just going to ask some questions and see what maybe shifts something for you. So, what if we talk to her?
Let me get the tissue.
Sure. Tissue's on the way, folks.
Okay.
Okay, so she left her body, but is she still with you, actually?
Of course.
Yeah. So when my aunt died, I felt her a lot. And I wasn't actually even that close to her, but I felt her a lot. And I felt her coming to me and like being kind of unhappy, actually. And so I was being affected by it in a hard way. And so I just went out into the desert and I just started talking to her out loud and having a conversation with her out loud. And I was amazed at what that shifted for me and the insight it brought for me. So we can do a little bit of dialogue here and see if she has some information, insight, something to offer you that can help you with your process. So there's some right questions. We're going to look for the right questions. And first of all, does she have something to say to you or tell you, or that she wants you to know?
The theme of what other people say and like all of us processing this together. It's just, there are no words.
Mm-hmm.
She was expected to be nonverbal, so she would use sign language to say mommy and daddy. And it's really, I think what she has to say is that there's so much more than just words.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more to expression than words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as a being right now, floating around, being in your presence, you can sense her, you can be there. Is there something that her energy is trying to communicate with you?
I don't know, I get a little tangled between what is my chatter or explanation and what would be coming from her.
Okay. So we're gonna use kinesiology to cut right through, because I also realize what time it is and I have somewhere to be at 9. So let's see. So there's a way to dynamically address or shift this energy and this whatever victim, guilt is my word, so you didn't use that word, victim, and grief energy. So there's something that can shift this. And it's some sort of communication with her. It's some sort of forgiveness of yourself. So, did she choose what she chose?
I have to accept that she did.
Mm-hmm. And it's like I see this happy little spirit sort of dancing around. And
you know, I'm not giving her the respect she deserves for what happened, you know, that she chose to embody this being and that she chose to leave.
okay, so there's the thing. This is what I'm getting, and see how this lands for you. That it's really hard to accept her choice and that she chose to leave.
Yeah.
So do you feel like she abandoned you in some way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I've done this kind of work before, like with my father passing, and you know, I know that that's something.
Okay, so is there, beyond her and her coming and going into from your life, is there a huge sort of pain or wound about being left behind and being abandoned by people who die?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that what's at the heart of this for you?
Yeah. You know, it's always tangled. There's so much more to it, but it's definitely abandonment. That's the source.
Okay. So we talked about identity, and we talked about victim. I'm wondering if there's an identity that says I am being abandoned.
Okay.
So can you go ahead and say that?
I am being abandoned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as long as you have that identity and carry that, it's like, of course, there's going to be so much grief around that and so much pain around that. And then also, that's what's going to be reflected back to you everywhere.
Right.
You're being abandoned.
And I can see how I've created experiences to prove it.
So the question then is, what does it take to address or heal or so we need to shift that place. That's the place of power for you, is to shift from the place of I'm being abandoned to some other experience of reality. So first of all, let's just say, is that really true? Are you being abandoned?
No.
No.
I mean, it feels true, but
yeah, it feels true, but you know on some level that's not true. Okay, so the best thing to do is just to clear this, is to do anything else with it. Like sometimes we get caught up in wanting all the information and wanting to know. And this is partly, oh, good morning, Josie, good to see you here. Thanks for joining us. So there's this place where you get caught up in wanting the information, wanting to understand things that I've found in my work helping people with their mental health and happiness and doing work like this. Sometimes you don't need to know. Sometimes you just need to shift the energy. And so we got to the point of like what we needed to know, which is there's this energy around abandonment and wanting to be and feeling like you're always being left behind. And so now all that's required is we just get to shift out of that energy. And we get to change that energy so that you can have a different experience. And there's a few different ways that we can do this. This is some of the energy balancing tools. And one of the things that I use is something from access consciousness. And I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to explain it here, but it's just like inviting that energy to shift and change and to be something else. So all of the commitments you have to being abandoned, all of the oaths, the vows, all of the everything, all of the energies that go into holding this in place, are you willing to eliminate, eradicate, destroy, and create all of them now?
Yes.
Okay, so everything that is times a godzillion. So godzillion is a number for God only to know. We'll just eliminate, eradicate, destroy, and uncreate. And then I'm going to use the access consciousness clearing statement, which is right, wrong, good, bad, puck and pot, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. Eliminate, eradicate, destroy, and uncreate. Revoke. So when we make commitments and contracts and so forth, we have to like sort of read. So I say revoke or can't, rescind, renounce, denounce, reclaim, destroy, and uncreate. Because like we get very attached to our contracts sometimes and we don't want to just let them go. So if we go back and we undo them, then we can let them go. So revoke, can't, rescind, renounce, denounce, reclaim, destroy, and uncreate. Eliminate, eradicate, destroy, and uncreate. Right, on, good, bad, pot and pod, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. And truth, who are you? Truth, who are you before that? Truth, who are you before that? Truth, who are you before that? And truth, who you'll be in the future. So that's helping you find your identity, right? Mm-hmm. So before you were the one that was being abandoned, you had an identity that was something else. Before that, it was something else, and you have a future identity. So did that shift anything for you? Did that change anything for you?
It feels lighter.
Okay, I was going to say, do you feel any lighter? Okay. So it might not clear up everything, but let's just go back now to saying, I am being abandoned. Does that still feel true for you?
I'm being abandoned. No.
No. So that identity, that energy that was so caught up is like, boom, now it's shifted. Now it's changed. Because we got to the heart of what that was and we shifted it. Okay, super. So that's a big shift from there. So there's anything else we need to know? Nope. There's some other energetic support that would be helpful for you. One of the things that I work a ton with is, here's my handy little box, is essential oils. So I have a sense that we did a bunch of shifting. We got to this root sort of heart issue, which is like, I am being abandoned by people who die, people who leave me, and I'm in my grief around it. We shifted that, so it's an opportunity for you to not now start to show up differently and have a different energy around how you're engaging with your life. But you also might need just some support for your body, for your being, to help you step into that new place. So I'm just going to pick an essential oil for you, and then we'll just invite the energy of that oil to come into your life. Even if you don't have it, you can work with the energy of. So this is the best oil to use. No, there is a best essential oil to use, and it's one from my box. It's anything here. So this is my process. I just muscle test until I find the right oil to use. Okay, so this is the oil that we need. So the oil that I picked up is an essential oil blend called Purification, which seems somewhat fitting, right? Like grief is a purifying process. It is a recovering process. So we're just going to call in the energy of purification, allowing your experience to be transmuted, purified, for the old energy of abandonment and being left behind to be shifted and transformed, so that you can open up to that energy of the sprightliness of your daughter, to the energy of whatever lessons or gifts she might be wanting to deliver to you out of body. And for the healing of your heart to continue to take place as you move through out of the place of abandonment and in your natural flow of grief, and back to, when we let our grief flow, it brings us back to joy. It brings us back to life. It brings us back to happiness. So how are you doing?
I feel better.
Okay, awesome. That's the goal. So the goal of every session in my work is, which is a little bit different than therapy, is that by the end of the session, you feel better, you feel lighter, your energy is shifted, and you're in a better feeling place. So that's awesome that you feel better.
And for me, going to therapy, like talk therapy, is like I feel more like validated in my story instead of like energetically
shifted. Yeah. Right. And so like I go to therapy and then I feel, maybe I cry, but I leave sometimes feeling raw or like vulnerable or tender, all this kind of stuff. And it's great how I can cry, but it didn't really shift that energetic place. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do in this work is really shift the energetic place so you can come to a place of greater balance, wholeness, peace, ease. And so it sounds like you had an energetic shift here today. Actually, I was going to ask you, and I forgot, like, rate yourself in the beginning and then rate yourself in the end. But just for the demo purposes. But I'm glad you're feeling better. I will check back in with you. I'm going to close out this portion, but I'll check back in with you just to make sure that everything's complete in a day or so. But thank you so much for being so vulnerable on this call out in front of the world and sharing this work. And I actually really wanted to offer you a little session to see if we could come to something like that. So I'm so grateful that it happened in this way and that you're able to carry that forward into your day. So thank you so much. And thank you for everyone watching now and later. And if you want to learn more about my work, you can visit my website, divineessencecoaching.com. You can get a free copy of my book there, Finding Your Own Happy. And you can tune in next week, Wednesday, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m.